Speaker, last Thursday, June 7th, the Attorney General of the United States, Jeff Sessions, announced that, quote, after careful consideration and with the approval of the President of the United States, his lawyers joined the state of Texas in federal court in a lawsuit to strike down standing provisions of the Affordable Care Act that protect patients from being denied health insurance coverage because of pre-existing medical conditions. This stunning announcement was made despite the fact that Congress has not, and I repeat, has not, repealed this part of the law, which is right here, page 1, Affordable Care Act. And despite the fact that President Trump and the Republican leaders have repeatedly promised to leave this section of the law alone. The President in 2017 State of the Union said, quote, first we must ensure that Americans with pre-existing conditions have access to coverage, close quote. Speaker Ryan, we are on a mission to make sure that everyone has access to affordable health care, especially those with pre-existing coverage. The representative who's the chairman of the Energy and Commerce Committee that writes health care laws stated, quote, we've talked about the protection for those with pre-existing illnesses for the last year, and we're not going to budge either. Well, Thursday's announcement by President Trump's Attorney General to attack pre-existing condition protections as unconstitutional and the deafening silence over the last 5 days in the wake of that announcement from GOP leaders in the House shows that all those heartfelt comments and words were nothing more than crocodile tears. From day one, the push to repeal the Affordable Care Act with no meaningful replacement, and last week's latest attack shows this president and his political allies in Congress just plain don't care about the millions of Americans who struggle with medical conditions that they have no control over. Mr. Speaker, this issue is not just a Washington, D.C. political squabble. It's not just a courtroom battle between lawyers. It goes to the heart of whether we as a nation will join the rest of the developed world to treat all Americans for disease, accidents, and chronic illness in a fair and just manner. Here's the facts. According to the Department of Health and Human Services, up to 133 million Americans have conditions which insurance companies, using the old rules of medical underwriting, defined as pre-existing conditions. Conditions like diabetes, cancer, high blood pressure, which I have, epilepsy, MS, Parkinson's, stroke, just to name just a few. And again, this is the list that insurance companies used to screen people for whether or not they would deny them actually even coverage at all, no matter how big a subsidy or no matter how much money you had to pay. Last year, during the debate on repeal, I heard from constituents in my district who benefited from the Affordable Care Act protections, like Michelle from Killingworth, who said, before the ACA, I tried to buy affordable health coverage, but I was turned down by major insurance companies due to pre-existing conditions. Patricia from Old Saybrook, my adult daughter has chronic disease which costs over $10,000 every 6 weeks to treat. Our insurance is a godsend. Richard from Killingworth, 63-year-old former educator, sustained TBI in an accident and was treated for prostate cancer. Thankfully, due to the Affordable Care Act, I've been able to access health care that I need. Michelle from Preston, she and her husband rely on ACA coverage. This decision by the Attorney General last Thursday cannot and must not stand. And the voters in November will remember if this body does not act to protect people for their health coverage for pre-existing conditions. I yield back the balance of my time.
The chair